Welcome everybody to today's sit down. The legend I have next to me on the couch today is Mike Oyston. If you ever around the motocross track and you look up, it's probably not Superman, it's not even an aeroplane, it's my friend right here doing a back somersault or what other fancy trick that is scaring the daylights out of everybody that's looking. Sir, what a brave man.
Thank you.
Welcome
Thank you
to
for
the
having
show.
me. I'm glad to be here.
Let's have some fun.
Awesome. Let's do it.
Now, before we carry on further with what's coming up next, what are your future plans? If we could bring back the 17-year-old Mike, walks through the door, sits here next to you, and we have a conversation with that person. Not the calm, cool, level-headed young man that you are, but the 17-year-old version of that. Who are you? What's your priorities? What are you thinking about? What's important to you at 17?
Sure. So 17, I think my main priority was actually just trying to get through school, finish matric, get a matric certificate and all of that kind of stuff. But on that same note, I was very much already involved in freestyle already.
At 17?
At 17, yeah. So it was like a bit of a conflict because I was trying to get through school, but on the other hand, I'm also trying to put the focus in on riding and progress and actually try and make something of it.
So focusing on at least finishing school, are you academic? Are you playing sports? Are you the rugby guy? Or is it just motocross? That's all that's on my mind. No girls at that stage, just motocross, me and my bike.
So when I started high school, I did play a little bit of rugby and stuff like that. And then when I got more involved in the riding scene, because that's where my focus was and all my time was going into that, I stopped playing sports for school, just focused on the academic side of things and just put all my focus into riding. I'd go and ride after school in the week. I was riding every weekend. I was just really trying to get as much saddle time as possible.
Awesome. Now, FMX is a very unique sport. It's very dangerous.
Yeah.
We spoke off camera. Dallin is a mutual friend of ours. I
Yes.
can call him my friend now because we've spent enough time together. And
Yeah, he's a really good homie.
he's a good homie. Yeah, and his first attempt of a backflip landed him 7 months on the couch.
Yeah.
It failed. Like, you're riding motocross. How does that process work? From I'm doing cool jumps to listen, I'm going to attempt something that could potentially, if I may, kill me.
Yeah, I think it comes down to like a confidence thing for one, and understanding your skill level. You're not going to go.
Your skill level.
That is extremely important, because being overly confident and not understanding your skill level and your capabilities can put you in a bad situation, But there is a fine line where you're not comfortable, but there's somewhat a certain level of confidence, and you actually kind of just need to come to terms with that and go for it. If it's something you really want to do, go for it.
So when did that happen for you? Is it at 17? Are you already doing, complex tricks, or are you still developing the skill to be able to attempt a trick like for example?
So by the time I was 17, I'd already learned a few of the tricks. Just the kind of person I am, I adapted really quickly with bar tricks over the front of the bike. So I learned some very high level of those tricks really early in my career. And then when it came to the stuff off the back of the bike and grabs, like I started to struggle a bit with that. So, and not everyone's the same. Some guys jump on the bike and off the bat, they like click with doing seat grabs and stuff off the back of the bike. And so it depends on the person, and then also, like, your body does affect it to a degree. Like
you're built.
Your
like
I'm
structure.
super flexible, so I have no issue jumping over the handlebars, not getting hooked up and caught on them, which makes a big difference. Some of the bigger dudes actually get stuck and can't go through or can't come back.
Because Dallin's a big guy.
Yeah.
He doesn't look like it when he's on his bike, but he's a big.
So when he was younger, he used to actually do quite a lot of the tricks that I do now through the front of the bars. And then over the years with injuries and flexibility, and obviously he's a much bigger dude than when we were kids, so that's hindered his ability to actually get through. I mean, I'm pretty sure he could still do it, but he's not going to be as comfortable doing that stuff now.
Okay, understand. And if you were to take back, because I mean you've got thousands of fans, and a lot of your fans are going to watch this interview, and you've got a lot of young kids aspiring to do what you and Dallin do and your team do. If you were to take one thing back with you to the start of your career, to the 17-year-old version of you before you're doing crazy seat grabs and over the handlebar tricks, what's the one thing that you take with you that will serve you, going forward? So the aim of the question is potentially prevent an injury or save somebody, 3, 4, 5 years worth of figuring things out on their own, so that they can apply it right now and use that knowledge that if you're willing to give.
So the riding scene, for what we do, the mental side of things plays a big factor into it. And sometimes it does get the better of you. And
in what way?
You can start to overthink things, and it becomes detrimental to your confidence. It makes you nervous. And now instead of being like clear-headed and you're like, cool, I know what I need to do, okay, what happens if this happens or this? And then your mind's actually not in the game. So when you're like in a situation like that, I'd say take a step back, think about what you're doing, calm yourself down, like get back into that right mental space before you actually go for the stuff.
So like we run a company, a dealership, and myself and Vince, who you just met off camera, he's my go-to person when we've got an issue in the company. So what I'm leading up to the way I'm understanding you is have a step-by-step process. So we
break it down.
We currently have a massive crisis on our hands in the company, but if you know that at step 1 you need to do this, step 2 you need to do this. The moment you start to overthink and then everything becomes blurry, then you're going to get nervous and you might make a mistake. So your feedback is just simple: do this, do this, do this, do this.
What we do is actually a calculated risk. I
think
know
everything we do is a calculated
risk. But
risk.
especially for freestyle, like I don't just try and wing things, especially at the point in the level that I'm riding at now.
You can't.
Often winging things results in you having a problem, So think about it. Understand what you're doing. Break it down for yourself.
But in a step-by-step process,
What needs to be done? How are you going to do it, So, all of those things factor in a lot.
So let's say, for example, I'm gonna learn now how to do a backflip. I'm gonna have to hit the ramp at a certain speed. My body needs to be in a certain position. Where's my throttle? So that's the step-by-step. Are you in third gear flat out? Are you in second gear flat out? That's what
you've broken that down beforehand, so I know how far the gap is. I've actually practiced for, say now, flipping or something like that. You're going to go and practice in a foam pit first.
100%.
Or somewhere where it's a bit safer, an airbag. Like airbags have revolutionized the sport for us.
Okay.
And so having access to those kinds of things and being able to go, practice makes perfect. I've done this to airbag, or I've done this to a pit however many times. I know what needs to be done. So you've broken that process down already. Then when you're now actually committing to go for something like that, it's a confidence thing. You need to be like, cool, I know what needs to be done and I'm going to go and do it. And don't sit and overthink it while you're going to do it. You've had to do that already.
Step 1, step 2,
exactly.
Step 3,
Get on the bike and let your body and your mind take over and go for it.
Go for it. Beautiful. Now, this is the competitor side of me asking you this question, and there's a reason. So we've spoken to a couple of celebrities, like, for example, Dr. Khumalo. When he laces up his boots, when he ties his boots, something happens to him that it takes him back 12 years old. He's walking his mom to a taxi rank. He's got 2 half bricks in his hands, and he's his mom's bodyguard. So the reason why it doesn't matter if you're a local defender, international defender, or if you're a soldier with a gun. When my boots are on, my job is to go past you with a ball.
Exactly.
I'm going past.
You have a job to do.
You've got a job to do. What happens to you when you put on that helmet?
Man, it's actually quite a surreal thing, to be honest with you, because like something happens, and it's not necessarily when I put the helmet on, but when you get into a certain zone it's often when you like preparing to go for a trick, or like you're about to start something.
So that's
there's
on the day you're already in your kit.
Yes.
Okay.
So like I'm still me, you know, but once I actually ride into the arena or out into the freestyle park where we're riding, it's like there's like the switch that goes inside my head, and it's actually it feels like it's not me anymore.
Dallin said the same thing.
It's like a completely different person comes in and takes over between the points, and I go one jump. So at that point where I'm turning to jump, that switch goes, and it's like someone else has taken over. I go, I do the jump, perform the trick, and I land, and I ride away from the landing, and that switch goes off again. Now I feel like I'm back to me. That period there is like someone else has taken over.
So is that a practiced skill? Is that you going through the motion, the switch is on now?
Yeah.
So step 1, 2, 3, 4, this is what I need to do.
That also
Nothing
comes
else,
down
mate.
to understanding and having broken things down, that now when that switch needs to go, I'm not trying to think, what do I need to do, and freaking out about it. I already have thought about that. That point where I've turned to ride around, that's where I'm thinking about it. Then when I get to now, okay, I'm going to go for it, that switch goes, and you just hit it, you go for it. You know what you need to do, and you go and you do it.
Beautiful. No fear, no regret.
Listen, sometimes there's regrets, but you learn from those.
It's
and
post
then,
the switch being
yeah,
on.
like things like fear. Sometimes you can't overcome the fear, and sometimes you end up doing things scared, and that's okay. If you want it bad enough, and you can't actually come to terms with that fear, sometimes you just have to do it scared.
You know, people, I've ridden bikes in my life, never remotely at the level that you guys do it in, and I've ridden dirt bikes, and it's like the adrenaline rush. I feel outside myself looking at myself when I'm on a motorcycle. But I've had a tumble as well, not a big one, but I've had a tumble. It is properly dangerous what you guys do.
Yeah.
You know, hats off. That's why we've got so much respect for you and that. And you know, it's like standing in the crowd there looking at you guys. I'm like, you know, the comments are, these guys are crazy. You're not crazy. You're just a hyper performer. You're just so good at what you do.
I mean,
it makes you.
We athletes like anyone else in the world.
And you make it look
like,
easy.
We go, we practice. I mean, everything's not about being on the bike. Yes, saddle time is a big factor.
Let's talk about that. How many hours a week would you consider is average saddle time for you?
For me, right now, not enough. Like nowhere near enough.
Okay.
I am working an 8 to 5 at the moment, so during the week it's very difficult to go and ride and stuff like that. And in an ideal world, I'd like to ride a minimum of 2 to 3 days a week. Most times I'm only getting to ride 2 days a week, a Saturday and a Sunday. Hours on the bike, it probably amounts to about 5 or 6 hours in a weekend.
And is that doing different things, or is it, you know, going and practicing in a airbag or
so for me, like right now, I don't have access to an airbag or foam pits and stuff like that. So everything I'm learning to do it. And so going through all of that stuff, you kind of just have to go for it, and it's baby steps. I don't go and wing things. I don't just go and try and throw a trick I've never done before. It's that thought process of break it down. Step 1, get your hand to the grab. Step 2, start floating off the bike, and gradually you'll start getting higher and higher and further away, and then before you know it, you're doing the trick. And you've now done it, and you've taken a safe approach to it.
I understand.
Instead of just being like, cool, let me just go for the trick. Because I've had some instances where I've done that, and it didn't work out so well. So
with Dallin, you know, I should have asked him, like, give me like 2 or 3 bones you haven't broken, rather than some of the stuff that you have broken. So can you run me through your injuries,
Sure.
if you don't mind? Does that question also apply to you?
Yeah, so I don't think I'm as bad as Dallin. I can tell you that much. I think I've been quite fortunate. My biggest injuries that I actually suffer with on the regular, like I snapped my tib and fib, have a plate and 7 screws in my right leg, which I mean I feel, especially in winter, like I feel it all.
Was that on a trick?
Yeah.
First attempt, or was it a practiced plan?
That was actually my first jump at a show
No.
in Pietermaritzburg, and unfortunately I missed the landing, and I landed sideways on it with my back wheel off. So because of how my frame hit the bike and the rig, my leg got jammed in there and snapped my leg. And then,
I'm sorry.
this may sound weird, but like a blessing in disguise was that I actually got knocked out when it happened. So a lot of that, like there's bits and pieces I don't remember, and like that does help, like, but you know, it's what we do. We know the risk, and so like my leg's one of them. I've got an ongoing issue with my shoulder where I pop it out all the time, and so yeah, that I'm always dealing with. But I mean, I'm always in the gym trying to like keep it strong. I've had some issues with my back where I've had some back injuries, but I mean, they don't stop me from riding. I can tell you that much. Carry on.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. You're dedicated, and you're a true professional.
Yeah, and I mean, I've broken all kinds, like wrists and stuff, like arms and stuff like that.
On land?
Yeah, once on a landing I'd fractured a wrist, but it's like going into the back of a landing and stuff like that, or ditching the bike in the air because I panicked about something and I land without the bike.
Yeah, that's not good.
Not good.
Not
it's
good.
a learning curve. Don't jump off.
So on that point, if you were to say, you know, my biggest failure that I've had in my career, what is it? An incident? Is it something off the track? Is it a mental thing? Because you said the mental part's very important.
So yeah, I think I try not to look at things as failures. I try and look at them more as like a learning curve.
I love it.
Or lessons learned, you know.
Because it happens to you.
Exactly. So
it happens for you,
exactly.
rather than to you.
Yeah, no, 100%. So sometimes having a crash, like people say, oh, you crashed, you broke a bone, it's a failure. No, it was a lesson learned. Why did I crash? What caused that to happen? And learn from those things. So yeah, crashes, people can look at them as failures. I see them as lessons. The mental game, yeah, big time. There's been a few occasions where I've let it get the better of me, and you make stupid mistakes and you learn from those mistakes. So
Okay, awesome.
yeah.
It takes a village to raise a young man. If you were to say, you know, these are the three people that most influenced me and helped me and guided me along the way, you know, touched me, course corrected me, who are the three people, and what did each individual do for you?
So, like we spoke, Dallin's been on your show before, he's a really good friend of mine. We ride together all the time. I'd definitely say him. He's a big part of the reason why I actually ride freestyle today. And his dad also. His dad's been very involved in our team from when we were kids, and just helping us and trying to make sure we have the platforms we need to actually continue to ride and pursue our dreams of wanting to make a career out of it as kids. So I definitely say those two people. And the third one I'm going to take a little bit of a cheap answer on, because it's hard for me to just pick one person, but I'm going to say my family, because a big factor from my family side of things is no one ever told me you can't. And that is a big thing from a mental side of things. When people tell you you can't do something, it lingers with you. And no one in my family has ever told me you can't do that.
Yeah, I always believe, you know, that you're chasing two things. You have to prove someone right, and you have to prove someone wrong.
Exactly.
So in your case, you have to prove them right, because they never said you can't do it. You know, and the proving someone wrong is dangerous, because that's when you go off the rails a little bit, and maybe that switch stays on too long.
Exactly.
Which could end up hurting you.
Yeah.
Which could end up hurting you. Beautiful answer. So Dallin, his dad, and the family. I want to ask you, your family, obviously huge fans. They support you. They're at events. You know, what are they saying to you before, during, and after the event? Are they like, good luck, go for it, or be careful?
They're very supportive. Like, listen, in the beginning, my mom used to watch like this, and like over time, she's gotten used to it, and she can actually like watch and enjoy now. But it's mostly supportive stuff. I mean, they know I'm not stupid. They know I know the risks, and it's 100% support all the time.
What's the best advice that you could give, you know, to young kids coming up in the sport, looking at you guys like, wow, that's what I want to do? What's the best advice that you've ever received, and what's the best advice that you can give young aspiring if
So
it makes
like,
jumps?
I was always told growing up, like, if you want something bad enough, go get it yourself.
Go get it yourself.
No one's going to do it for you. No one's going to say, here's a bike, here's all the tricks, here's all the skill, now you can do it. You need to go get all those things. You need to put the work in. You need to do the hours, the effort, all of that stuff. So go get it yourself. If you want something bad enough, you can make it happen more than anyone else can.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. And two-stroke and four-stroke. I know Dallin started off with a two-stroke.
Yeah.
And then you know, the rumor was that that's going to an end. Moved over to a four-stroke.
Yeah.
What do you enjoy more?
So we were both riding two strokes
Yeah.
over the same stage, and I think if I'm not mistaken, I might have moved over onto a four-stroke before.
Okay.
It was more or less in the same kind of
Same time.
frame that we did. I can't actually remember who moved over first, but yeah, it had something to do with the rumors of what was going on in the industry with two strokes, and also the bike that I was riding at that stage was a 125 two-stroke.
Oh, animal,
And
crazy.
Not quite, because I was struggling with it because of the power and stuff like that. I was having to run in a lot faster than everyone else, hit the ramps harder, and it makes things a little bit more difficult.
Okay.
So I then moved on to a 254 stroke, which has a lot more low-end power, which means I could come in a bit slower, I can gas harder, the bike's a bit more reliable. Like, that's another thing. Like, my first broken bone in freestyle was because my bike, my 125, which was a two-stroke, fouled the plug on the takeoff ramp. So the motor cut out and I went straight into the back of the landing and broke my wrist from that.
Oh, man. So four-stroke, more reliable, more balanced,
Yeah.
more lower.
But then also reliability also comes down, there's a degree of maintenance you need to have, you know. If you're not looking after your bike, and it doesn't matter 125 or 250, four-stroke, two-stroke, doesn't matter. If you're not looking after your bike, you're going to have problems.
Let's say you've measured the distance. If I remember correctly, up to 10 meters high you guys jump, and about 22 meters
Yes.
is the distance between the two ramps,
Yeah.
22 meters. What's your entry speed, and at what gear are you in to perform a stunt?
Yeah, so now I'm riding a 350.
Four-stroke.
Yeah, and the
Okay.
350s and the 450s running in more or less the same speed and the same gear. So we're both jumping in second gear.
Second gear.
So it's actually not nearly as fast as what the bike can actually go.
Okay.
And
And you make the distance.
Yeah, I think what they'd worked it out, you roughly, when you hit the base of the ramp, you're probably doing about 45 k's an hour.
That's very
something,
fast.
give or take. But if you think about it, you're in second gear, your bike goes up to fifth.
Yeah.
So you can go a lot further than that, and even in second gear, you can miss that landing.
Really? So you can
Yeah.
over jump?
Yeah, even on that distance, you can still miss that thing.
Okay. I didn't know that. I was wondering because I thought like it's very far. You're probably fourth gear flat out.
No,
and
second gear, it all comes down to technique at the end of the day. With what we do as opposed to racing, like racer, you want to be fast and you want to soak jumps, you want to be as close to the ground as
Yes,
you can
yes.
all the time, so that you're always
Flat.
back on the ground getting on the gas. Whereas us, we want to come in slow and then gas hard on the ramp so that you go higher, so that you're not soaking speed, you're actually creating height now
Okay.
by
Interesting.
doing stuff like that. So it's also technique.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What's your longest wheelie? Because I know with you guys, like with us, I do a power wheelie, whoa, and then
Yeah.
put it down. With you guys, it's like Monday, Tuesday.
Listen, I'm not the biggest fan of like those fast like fifth gear wheelies.
Yes.
Like I can do them and say my longest wheelie is a couple 100 meters or something like
Awesome.
that. I don't really dig the fast wheelies because if you come off, you're going to pay for it in the skin, unfortunately, sliding down the road or wherever you're wheeling. I much prefer the slower stuff like first gear wheelies, brake control, throttle control. It's all about balance, and then you can start trying to do things like scrape your fender, go past the balance point.
And bring it back with a brakes.
Exactly.
Unreal. My friend, if you could spend an entire day with someone, who, like dead or alive, who would it be? And what's the one question that you would love to ask that person?
It's a very difficult question because it's hard to single it down to one person.
Yeah.
If it was in regards to like freestyle in my career and stuff like that, like one of the biggest icons in our sport was Robbie Madison.
Yes.
And also Travis Pastrana.
Yes.
I've been fortunate enough to actually meet and hang out with Travis a little bit.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, but out of the two of them, like having already met Travis and stuff like that, I dig to like hang out with Robbie, you know, go check out his place there. There's a lot of top riders who ride at his house and stuff like that. And just get some advice from him, you know, be like, hey, the same questions you're asking me, if you could go back to your younger self, give them some advice, what would you say? Like find out what he thinks from his perspective, because he's also been very diverse in the industry. It hasn't just been freestyle, like he's done stunts and all these crazy things, and it would be really cool just to like chat to him about some of that stuff and kind of see where his mental state was and how he overcame the fear of certain things. And
we all know Travis Pastrana from the Nitro Circuit series, and you know he jumps over buildings and like how easy was you and Dallin are like way too chilled. You guys are like, I'm expecting this whirlpool of energy to come in here, and like everything flies around, and you sit on and you like this cool, calm guy. Is Travis the same?
It's like you get like this like vivid picture of someone in your mind from what you see on TV, and when you meet him, as crazy and as talented as a man as he is, he's a human being like the rest of us.
Yeah.
And he's super down to earth, and he's quite a genuinely a nice guy. And I mean, if you didn't know he was Travis Pastrana and you bumped into him in the street and had a conversation, you'd just be like, wow, what a nice guy.
What a cool dude.
Yeah.
If you could overhear, I love asking people this question because it gives me insight as to, you know, what's going on in your mind outside of your sport, outside of your 825. If you could overhear a conversation, me and you were a fly on the wall somewhere. What room are we in and who's speaking? Who are we, you know, eavesdropping on?
There's a lot of conversations I'd like to listen to.
Me too, by the way.
I mean, something that's been playing on my mind, and I think a lot of the people in this country, is obviously the state of like certain things that are happening. Like we're all getting nailed by petrol prices and like the things going on with Eskom, and I'm hearing stories about them wanting to put like these prices on people who are trying to go off the grid with solar.
I've heard that. That's
so
not
like
fair.
I'd actually really be interested to actually sit and listen in on some of these conversations and understand how you came to those conclusions and what is it that you're trying to achieve out of some of these things, because a lot of people, from the general consensus of what I'm seeing, is a lot of people are against these things.
But you know, I don't like diving into politics, but I'll touch on that because I'm passionate about it. Like, I'm not saying, you know, the current management of Eskom failed.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that at all, because this is an inherited problem that everybody's had to sort of, you know, it's like catching a hot potato.
Yeah.
You know, a new team comes in, the potato's hot. But what's the thought process behind, you want to go off the grid, therefore less load on the grid.
Exactly.
Therefore less power use, therefore more power availability, but we're going to punish you.
See, that's why I'd like to be involved
what's going on
and listen
with
to these conversations and go, what is your thought process and how are you unpacking these things to understand them and to reach the conclusions you do?
Should be rewarding
I'm not saying
you.
I agree with it or I don't,
Yeah.
whatever the case. I'd just like to actually be, like you say, a fly on the wall and actually listen to these conversations and understand how they came to these
What's
things.
the dynamic behind
Exactly. You know, maybe if some things were a little bit more open and on the table for people, we might be a little bit more understanding. I don't know. I don't have that information. So being a fly on the wall would give me access to
I'd love
it.
to be your friend on the wall, looking at and listening to this conversation. Awesome. Now, you're a bike guy, but are you a car guy as well? So I'm going to ask you your first bike and your first car versus your dream car and what you currently ride.
So yes, love cars.
Love cars.
Love cars. My first bike was a Pee-wee 80, a little Yamaha Pee-wee 80, small little thing.
Also a two-stroke.
Yes, also a two-stroke.
Those are wild. I've ridden one when I was a young boy.
I think there are two strokes.
Yeah.
Yes. But yeah, that was my first bike. And then with regards to cars, it's actually a bit of a funny story because I actually only bought my first car that I've owned last year.
Awesome.
Okay, I bought myself a little Nissan Bucky so that I can do little runarounds and so that I can get my bike to where I need to be for shows and to practice and stuff. But up until last year, I'd been quite fortunate where I'd actually never had to be in a position where I needed to buy a car. I've always been in a position like with companies where I've had access to company cars,
Awesome.
which has been a blessing in disguise. And then last year, I wanted to make a career move within the company I'm working for now, and that resulted in me having to give the company car back.
Okay.
Which I then went and bought my own car.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And what's your dream car?
Big fan of BMW.
Me too.
Not crazy on the new facelift on the front of the new cars.
The grill quite large, but in person, I love it.
A lot better in person.
Yeah,
yes,
on the photos it looks awkward.
But I definitely say I love BMW, and if I could own like a bit of an older shaped M3, I would be more than happy.
Officially best friends.
Done.
No, me and you are best friends. Yeah. Whenever there's a V8 M3, especially a manual one.
Yes.
Like they know, like Bob's is taking this car and I'm going to drive this car. It's awesome. I like your tasting cars.
I love them.
I know you guys are sponsored.
Yes.
So what bike are you currently riding? And please, a shout out to the sponsor.
So KTM South Africa has been amazing over the last few years.
Especially through COVID.
Yes, they've been helping us out, and they are one of the sponsors that actually stuck with us through COVID.
Beautiful.
Unfortunately, some companies took some big knocks because of COVID, and we lost those sponsors, which is understandable given the state of what was going on in the world.
Yeah. It was a first for all of us.
Yeah, so at the moment I'm riding a KTM, and then I get help with parts, like extra stuff like handlebar sprockets and stuff through TRP, which brings in ProTaper into the country. So ProTaper helps us. And then from like gear-wise, I'm sponsored by Shift MX, which is a gear brand. So they help me out, equipping me out with all the gear I need. There are some things that we don't necessarily get like full sponsorships for, that like we go and get ourselves, like because of the plate in my leg, I can only ride in a certain brand of boots.
Okay.
So I only ride in those boots because there's like an inner bootie inside them that actually protects my plate. And yeah.
So is the plate sort of here at the bottom?
Yeah, it's right on my shin. So it runs like parallel with my shin.
Please don't kick me in the shin with your shin.
No, it will probably hurt me more, to be honest with you.
Okay, understand.
Yeah, then we get stuff like goggles through a company, 100%. They do goggles for us. We get cleaning products from a company called Dirt Nurse. They help us keep our bikes looking nice and fresh at shows. Nice. And yeah, I mean, there's been lots of companies over the years that like get involved and kind of slip away, and so the support that we've had over the last few years from the companies we've been involved with actually has been really cool.
It's not really a mainstream sport yet. However, you know, the more people are being exposed to it, you know, seeing you guys actually perform live, the more people realize the level of finesse and the level of professionalism and the actual time that it goes, that you guys have to put in to be able to perform at that level. I think the sport is growing, and we're huge fans.
Yeah, I mean, I try and look at it like, I think because of the early days of freestyle and the guys were hooligans and crazy, and like the sport got like this lingering kind of like tarnished name to a degree, where you kind of just assume, it's like a stereotype, you assume we must be of a certain kind of person to do what we do.
You are not the kind of person I assumed you were going to be. You're definitely true.
Yeah, with things going mainstream with the freestyle, and those things have kind of toned down a bit, and you do need to be a sportsman, and you need to put the time in, and also if you're not being a nice person and you don't have a good image for the sport, and you're not being a role model to the younger generation, you're going to have a tougher time with sponsors and stuff like that as well. Because they also look at the image and what kind of person you are, and are you a role model? Are you an ambassador for the brand? Is it someone they want involved with the brand?
Absolutely. Love Love your answer. Are you a big reader?
Not a big reader. Have read quite a few books
What's your
over the
favorite
years.
book?
My favorite book, I've got to be careful of the name here because it might get me in trouble, but it's called The Subtle Art of
Not giving a fuck.
Yeah, exactly. I love that book.
Special effects of beep, beep, beep. So, and we've had Jack Parra on the show as well.
Okay.
So, yeah, we had to use a lot of special effects for that interview. So, yeah, also love the book.
Yes, love the book.
It's a
I
great
mean,
book.
from a mental point of view with riding, I've taken a lot out of that book and tried to apply it to riding. Trying to learn in situations where you're like overthinking something and you need to take a step back and go, is this something I should overthink? Or is it something I need to let go and move on from? And it's kind of given me a guideline of to learn almost what to care about and what not to care. It's a very fine line, but it's a nice guideline on decision making when it comes to certain things like that.
Beautiful. Love it, love it, love it, love it. When is the next big competition coming? I think there's one in September, if I'm not mistaken.
It's November.
Is it November? So
yes.
it's the big whip competition.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, it's the 19th.
19th of November.
Saturday, yeah.
Okay, great. So is there anything before the time?
So
can we come out and see you guys and support you?
We do have some shows in the pipelines that we're just waiting for some confirmations on and all of that. So I don't want to let the cat out the bag and then they don't pull through or something like that. But we are working on some stuff. If you keep an eye on my social media, Dallin's social media, or our team.
What do you prefer, Insta or Facebook?
I'm a lot more active on Instagram, but you can find me. I have a personal page on Facebook and an athlete page, which I'll also put updates on. And then our team page, Jungle Rush FMX, is probably where you're going to find the best information, because if for some reason I'm not involved in a show or something like that, whatever stuff we're involved in, whichever one of the guys from the team, you'll find the information there.
Mike, it's been an awesome experience. It's been a privilege to meet you.
Thank you.
You are nothing like what I expected. I'm very pleasantly surprised. You're the calmest guy in the room, and just an abundance of knowledge in your sport and in life. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I really learned a lot, and I hope to see you soon.
Thanks so much.
Doing a backflip.
I hope so too.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, appreciate it.